Look at me again and you're fired. David Foster froze, his daughter's drawing clutched in his hand. The entire office fell silent. Victoria Chen, CEO of Titan Industries, stood in the doorway of the conference room, her face flushed with anger, finger pointed directly at him. He hadn't meant to stare. He'd only been trying to understand why his boss, the woman who'd built a billion-dollar empire, looked like she'd been crying. David had been working at Titan Industries for 6 months. It wasn't the career he'd dreamed of, he'd wanted to be an architect, but after his wife Lauren died in a car accident 2 years ago, dreams took a backseat to survival. His daughter Mia was only 5, and she needed stability more than she needed a father chasing fantasies. So he took the junior analyst position. Decent pay, good benefits, regular hours that let him pick Mia up from kindergarten. It wasn't glamorous, but it was enough. Victoria Chen was a legend in the business world. At 38, she transformed her father's struggling manufacturing company into a tech powerhouse. Magazine covers called her the Iron Dragon and Silicon Valley's most ruthless CEO. She was brilliant, driven, and terrifying. Everyone knew the rules: don't make eye contact unless she addresses you first, don't speak in meetings unless asked, and never, ever question her decisions. She'd fired people for less. David had managed to stay invisible for 6 months. Until today. It started innocently enough. David arrived at work early, as always, stopping by his desk to drop off his bag. Tucked inside was Mia's latest crayon masterpiece, a drawing of the two of them holding hands under a rainbow. She'd been so proud when she'd given it to him that morning. "It's for your office, Daddy. So you remember I love you even when you're working." His heart had melted. He'd promised to put it up immediately. He was heading to the break room when he heard it, a sound so unexpected in the sterile corporate environment that it stopped him cold. Someone was crying. Not the quiet sniffling of someone with allergies, but deep, wrenching sobs that spoke of real pain. The sound came from the executive conference room. The door was slightly ajar. David knew he should walk away. Mind his own business. But something about those sobs reminded him of himself in the months after Lauren died, those moments when the grief would ambush him and he'd lock himself in the bathroom, trying to hold it together for Mia's sake. He approached quietly and glanced through the gap in the door. Victoria Chen sat alone at the massive conference table, her head in her hands, shoulders shaking. Her perfectly styled black hair had fallen loose. Her designer suit jacket lay crumpled on the floor. She looked nothing like the invincible CEO everyone feared. She looked broken. David's instinct was to help, but before he could decide what to do, Victoria's head snapped up. Their eyes met through the gap in the door. For a moment, neither moved. Then her expression transformed from devastation to fury. She shot to her feet and yanked the door open. "Look at me again and you're fired," she screamed, her voice echoing through the entire floor. "Do you understand me? You're done. Get out." Every head in the office turned. Whispers erupted. David stood frozen, Mia's drawing still in his hand, completely blindsided. "Ms. Chen, I'm sorry, I didn't mean. I said get out." David gathered his things in a daze. His co-workers avoided eye contact, relieved it wasn't them. 20 minutes later, he was in his car in the parking garage, trying to figure out how to tell his 5-year-old daughter that Daddy lost his job. The bills that were barely manageable would become impossible. Mia's insurance, the rent, groceries, everything had been balanced on his Titan Industries paycheck. He looked down at the drawing in his lap. Mia's stick figure smiled up at him, holding hands under that crayon rainbow. "I love you Daddy," written in her kindergarten scrawl across the top. Tears burned his eyes. Lauren would know what to do. Lauren always knew what to do. But Lauren was gone, and he was alone, and he'd just ruined everything because he couldn't mind his own business. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, security office. "Now. VC. Victoria Chen's initials. David's stomach dropped. Was she going to have him arrested for, what? Looking through a door. He'd already been fired. What more could she want? But he went, because what choice did he have? The security office was a small room tucked away on the ground floor. When David entered, Victoria Chen stood with her back to him, arms crossed, staring at the wall of security monitors. She'd fixed her hair and put her jacket back on, but her eyes were still red-rimmed. "Close the door," she said quietly. He did. She turned to face him, and the fury from earlier was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like shame. "I shouldn't have screamed at you," she said. Her voice was steady now, controlled. That was unprofessional. David blinked. Was Victoria Chen apologizing? "I'm sorry for intruding," he managed. "I heard someone crying and I just wanted to help," she finished. "I know. I pulled your file." Of course she did. She gestured to a chair. "Sit." He sat. She remained standing, maintaining the power dynamic even in apology. David Foster. Junior analyst. Widower. Single father to a 5-year-old daughter named Mia. She paused. "Your performance reviews are excellent. Your supervisor says you're reliable, talented, and kind to everyone. You've never been late, never called in sick, and you volunteer to help other departments when they're overwhelmed." David didn't know what to say. Victoria walked to the window, her back to him again. "Today is the anniversary of my son's death." The words hung in the air like a grenade. "He would have been 12, she continued, her voice cracking slightly. "Leukemia. 4 years ago. I was in a board meeting when he took his last breath. My assistant tried to call me 17 times. I didn't answer because I was too busy proving I was strong enough to run this company." David's throat tightened. "I made it to the hospital 20 minutes too late. My son died calling for his mother, and his mother was in a conference room arguing about quarterly projections." She turned back to him, and her eyes were filled with tears. "You want to know why I'm so ruthless? Why everyone's terrified of me? Because I learned that nothing, is more important than the people you love. And I teach that lesson by making sure no one here ever makes the same mistake I did." She wiped her eyes roughly. "I saw you looking at me, and for a split second, I saw pity. I can't stand pity. It reminds me that I'm the woman who chose work over her dying child. So I lashed out. And I'm sorry." David stood slowly, Mia's drawing still clutched in his hand. "Ms. Chen, I wasn't pitying you. I was worried about you. There's a difference." She laughed bitterly. "Is there?" "Yes." He held up the drawing. "My daughter made this for me this morning. She wanted me to hang it in my office so I'd remember she loves me while I'm at work. You know what I realized when you fired me? That losing this job might be the best thing that ever happened to me." Victoria's eyebrows rose. "Because I was starting to make the same mistake you did," David continued. "I was so focused on providing for Mia that I forgot to be present for her. I was choosing stability over memories. Safety over joy. And yeah, I need this job, desperately, but not at the cost of missing her childhood." Victoria stared at him for a long moment. Then she walked to her desk and pulled out a piece of paper. She wrote something and handed it to him. It was a promotion letter. Senior analyst. Significant raise. And a note at the bottom in her handwriting, flexible hours. Family comes first. "You're not fired," she said. "You're promoted. With a condition." "What condition?" "Hang that drawing in your new office. And every time you look at it, remember that your daughter needs you present more than she needs you perfect. Can you do that?" David's vision blurred. "Yes, ma'am." "And David?" If you ever see me crying in a conference room again, knock on the damn door. Ask if I'm okay. Because sometimes the strongest thing we can do is admit we're not strong at all. 6 months later, David's office wall was covered in Mia's drawings. His team knew that if his daughter called, he answered, no matter what meeting he was in. Victoria had implemented a company-wide policy, flexible hours for parents, on-site childcare, and mandatory time off for family events. The business magazine started calling her the CEO who put family first, instead of the Iron Dragon. Profits didn't suffer. In fact, employee retention skyrocketed, and productivity increased. One afternoon, Victoria stopped by David's office. She saw him and Mia, who had a half-day at school, working together on a drawing at his desk. Ms. Chen. Mia looked up with a gap-toothed smile. Do you want to color with us? Victoria glanced at David, who nodded encouragingly. She pulled up a chair, picked up a crayon, and for the first time in 4 years, allowed herself to just be present. Thank you, she whispered to David as Mia chattered about her artwork. For reminding me what matters. He smiled. Thank you for listening. Sometimes the people who seem the strongest are the ones carrying the heaviest burdens. And sometimes all it takes is one person brave enough to look beyond the armor and see the human underneath. If you believe that showing up matters more than being perfect, subscribe for more stories about second chances and the courage to choose what really matters.